Mr. Sergeant at Arms.
All persons not entitled to privileges of the floor under the rules of the Senate must now vacate the chamber.
Please rise for the invocation by Pastor Kirk Whitehouse, Salt and Light Church, LaGrange, Kentucky, guest of the Senator from Oldham, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pray with me. Heavenly Father, you are our ever-wise God, our Father and our God. And I pray today that your Holy Spirit would move in this room. I come to you in the name of Jesus, praying for wisdom and guidance. And you tell us in your word that when we ask for wisdom, you give it generously without reproach. Father, I pray that you would guide every heart that's within earshot of my voice, that we would be aligned with your good and perfect will, that we would see things that you call good, good, and that we would see things that you call evil, evil. Father, we ask you for holy wisdom and guidance. In the mighty and matchless name of Jesus, I pray all of these things. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, or Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Boswell. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funke Fromeyer. Senator Girdler. Senator Givens. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howe. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemus. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers.
Here.
Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Titchener. Senator Webb. Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Any member seeking recognition for the purpose of answering the roll? Senator Neal is here. There being 35 members present, quorum declared, Senate's authorized and prepared to do business. First order of business is excuse of absence. Senator from Taylor.
Senators be excused, please.
Without objection, the absent senators are excused. Next order of business is approval of the journal. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that the journal from Thursday, February 19th, 2026 be approved as written.
Without objection, the journal from Thursday, February 19th, 2026 is approved as written. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, we welcome all those guests that are watching us live from KET as well as online, or those that may be in the annex watching us from the guest room. We thank them for following throughout the deliberations of the process as we are on day 31 of the legislative session. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator from Taylor. We are now on the downhill side.
Exactly. Moving in the right direction.
Before we go on to the regular order of business, the chair is going to recognize the senator from Grayson.
Thank you, Mr. President. On this 31st day of our legislative session, the clerk of the House is here to communicate with our Senate.
Madam Clerk, we expect you back at least 29 more times.
You drive a hard bargain, Mr. President. Mr. President, the House has passed House Bills 43, 139, 297, 414, 485, and respectfully request concurrence of this honorable body. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Good weekend.
Good to see you.
Have a good weekend.
Order of business that we will return to is second reading of bills on the calendar. Mr. Clerk, do you have a report? Please report.
For Friday, February 20th, 2026, second reading of bills on the calendar. Senate Bill 50, an act relating to disposition of property, Senator Storm. Senate Bill 101, an act relating to children, Senator Nunn. Senate Bill 124, an act relating to sick leave for school district personnel, Senator Nunn. Senate Bill 129, an act relating to unemployment insurance, Senator Nemes. Senate Bill 162, an act relating to children, Senator West. Senate Bill 170, an act relating to status offenses, Senator Storm.
Mr. Clerk, that concludes your report. All those bills and resolutions having received their second reading are now in the possession of the Rules Committee for further action. No need to report on committees, none met. Next order of business would be introduction of new bills and resolutions. Mr. Clerk, please report.
Senate Resolution 111, a resolution honoring the 10th anniversary of the 2016 regular session, Senate Bill 228, and recognizing its lasting impact on bullying prevention in Kentucky public schools. Senator Carroll.
Is that all you have?
I do.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Next order of business is orders of the day. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I make a motion before we get into the orders that I move Senate Bill 39 that be taken from the Rules Committee and placed in the orders of the day for action today.
Without objection, Madam Clerk, please show that Senate Bill 39 is now in the orders of the day. Senator from Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. And with that, I move that Senate Bill 39 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please report Senate Bill 39.
Senate Bill 39, an act relating to fishing in privately owned lakes and ponds. Senator Boswell.
Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I give to the Senator from Davies for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Davies.
Thank you, Mr. President. As primary sponsor, I move to withdraw Senate Floor Amendment 2 and Senate Floor Amendment 3.
Without objection, Senate Floor Amendment number 2 and 3 are withdrawn. Senator from Davis.
Mr. President, I move to adopt Senate Floor Amendment number 6.
Let's have it reported first.
Okay. Report it and
Mr. Clerk, would you please report Senate Floor Amendment number 6?
Senate Floor Amendment 6 to Senate Bill 39.
Senator from Davies, do you have a motion on Senate Floor Amendment number 6?
move for adoption of Senate Floor Amendment number 6.
The matter before the body is adoption of Senate Floor Amendment number 6. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Senate Floor Amendment number 6 is adopted. Senator from Davies,
Speak on the bill.
please proceed.
Mr. President, this bill is about private property rights versus public property rights. It's about creel limits, and creel limits meaning the type, size of the fish and the number that you can take. And it has no change to license requirements that are already in the law. It allows for stocking of F1 Florida bass in private lakes and ponds. Even though this bill has no license or language, I encourage everyone who hunts and fishes to purchase a license to help support the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. If there are no questions, Mr. President, I move for passage of Senate Bill 39 as amended by Senate Floor Amendment number 6. I would yield.
Is not in order yet at this time.
Yes.
So we've adopted the amendment. We need to act on Senate floor amendment. Yeah.
I'll yield to the. I'll yield to the Senator for Carter for action on her amendments.
All right. Checking to see who has what floor amendments 1, 4, and 5. Senator from Carter.
As sponsor of floor amendments 1 and 5, I would move to withdraw same.
Without objection, Madam Clerk, please show that Senate floor amendments 1 and 5 are withdrawn. Senator from Carter.
As sponsor of floor amendment 4, I would ask the clerk to report.
Mr. Clerk, please report Senate floor amendment number 4.
Senate Floor Amendment 4 to Senate Floor Amendment 6 to Senate Bill 39.
Senator from Carter.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just, I'm not going to belabor this point, but I filed floor amendment 4 because I had some disagreement as to the interpretation of the bill as introduced. I appreciate the slight modifications that sponsors made, but I want to explain floor amendment 4 and why this has been such a negotiated issue from my standpoint. And what my floor amendment did, I felt like this did have license implication to undermine the funding mechanism of the Department of Fish and Wildlife, which operates on licenses, fees, and federal excise taxes distributed on the federal level through Pittman-Robertson Act. And I felt like this did impugn the base of licensure in its original form, and I think it's important that we ensure that that does not happen. And there's some definitional changes. We've had Attorney General reports and discussions, and we've been talking about some of these changes for years from an enforcement standpoint. And here we are now trying to enable and empower our conservation officers even more, which is very appropriate in this climate, and so there needs to be enforcement tools from a prosecutorial standpoint, from an enforcement standpoint. So a lot of these definitions were based on that, like residency. Make it clear that resident versus non-resident of the Commonwealth. And just because you're a non-resident and you own property in Kentucky, those property taxes don't fund Fish and Wildlife. I respect that, but you still need a license per the tenets of the North American wildlife model, which sets us apart. We're the envy of the world for the model that we've implemented that arose a long time ago because of decimation of species and illegal takes without limit in the United States. And wildlife are migratory, and that's why it's the North American model. They know no bounds. Same thing when they cross your private property. You might own that property, but you don't own that wildlife. So that's the North American model that we were attempting to preserve and clarify. And Floor Amendment 4 provided some clarification for that. And also, we have to live by what's deemed invasive by federal law. I really don't like putting in statute what breeds of fish or anything else that the agency, which is science-based, who deals with this stuff with federal and state cooperation, because a lot of our lakes, especially in eastern Kentucky, are federal Corps of Engineer controlled lakes. We are lucky to have leases, to have state parks and other memorandums of agreement with them, but ultimately the U.S. Corps of Engineers controls the water level, which it impacts the spawn and everything else. So there's a lot of layers to dealing with designations, and it just clarified what we all know, that U.S. Fish and Wildlife could deem a species invasive. And again, I don't like naming those species. Hybrids pop up, and it's just like anything else. We need to let the agency, science, dictate this per the North American wildlife model. I also felt like other states, I've got 3 pages of how other states deal with this issue. This isn't all my authorship, but there's a reason for that. As to the definition of private lake and pond, again, for an enforcement purpose, and for the landowner to know the parameters of what they're dealing with. I think the sponsor did incorporate 2 of the 4 that I recommended, but most states have a definitional acreage. And you know, lakes and ponds, it's usually by depth and not necessarily by acreage when you're designating. A lake is deeper than a pond. But you've got to have parameter definition here. And then, and another thing I encouraged by other states was located entirely within the private farmlands of the owner. Now, the changes that were made, they do protect the public trust as to water's coming in, water's going out, invasive species possibly coming in, coming out. Think about the snakehead, think about the Asian carp. Those were, they originated from a private pond. So there are legitimate issues for lack of clarification and definition here, not only from enforcement, but for public protection of the public resource. So that's what Amendment 4 did, and at this time, I would withdraw that amendment, Mr. President, and ask to speak briefly on the bill.
Upon the motion, and you are the primary sponsor, please show that Senate Floor Amendment number 4 is withdrawn, and at the appropriate time, the chair will recognize you. Now, Senator from Davies, do you have a motion on the bill as amended?
Yes, Mr. President. Move for passage of Senate Bill 39 as amended by Senate Floor Amendment number 6.
The matter before the body is passage of Senate Bill 39 as amended. Any other member seeking recognition who is yet to be recognized on the bill? Seeing none, the chair would recognize Senator from Carter. Explanation of your floor amendment and withdrawal does not count against your 15-minute allotted time.
I won't take you 15 minutes, Mr. President, I promise. But
Thank
I
you.
would like to go through the North American Wildlife Model. For what we do here in the future, it's very important to remember the tenets of this model and why they exist and how, because we're preserving the resource for generations to come. That's the goal here. It's not about me. I've got a private lake. You know, it's not about my private lake. It's about whether or not my grandchildren can have the same opportunities with the same resource that my father and I and everybody else, sportsmen and women across Kentucky, have fought to keep. So there are 7 pillars of the model, and one is that wildlife is a public resource and to be held in public trust. For the reasons aforementioned, the nature of wildlife, their migratory patterns, you don't own those, and the state needs to manage those. And I'm not a big state control person, but certainly in this instance, there needs to be state and federal control, or we're going to have decimated species like we did in the 30s and 40s. And sportsmen and women pay for conservation, and they have enabled deer, turkey, elk, pronghorn sheep, and other species to proliferate and be utilized, be seen. You don't have to hunt to enjoy them. And so that's what I strive to protect every day. While acknowledging private property rights, there's no doubt about that, and it's partnership, there's a partnership there that needs to be had. Killing for a legitimate purpose is also, so I don't like no limits. I think killing for a legitimate purpose is part of the tenet of the model, and we've tried to do that with management, whether it's game or fish. So you eliminate those markets and take the profit out of this, because that's what put us in the need of the model in the first place. And allocation of wildlife by law, which the agency and other agencies throughout the United States try to do. And what I think is important is the accessibility and availability of hunting and fishing to everyone, regardless of class, of wealth, privilege, or land ownership. The guy and girl in the John boat shouldn't have to pay the way for people who can afford it. And that, too, is an important tenet when public access, when pricing, accessibility is important. And to give people who can afford it a pass while the people in the John boat floating down the river are paying the way. That's what the model is part of the model as well, and I think a very important part of the model, especially when public access is being limited. So, and that science-based wildlife management. That's why Fish and Wildlife hires biologists. I don't always agree with them. My daddy didn't always agree with them. But these people know what they're doing. And I don't care what Facebook group you have or whatever, those science-based decisions should be made by people that are qualified to do it. And I want to entrust more of that. So there's been a lot of agendas floating around Fish and Wildlife. I think we're all exhausted with it for the last few years. There's a lot of self-serving agenda.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't like it. I'm not used to it. I grew up in this. My dad went through 8 or 9 governors being a commissioner in Northeast Kentucky, fighting hard for East Kentucky to have what they have now. And I want to continue that fight. But I have an agenda too, and that's to protect the resource first. Resource first, not my ability to hunt, not my ability to fish, to protect the resource for everybody, not just hunter sportsmen and women. Protect the mission of the agency. If you don't know what it is, go back and look at it. Protect the tenets of North American Model of Wildlife Management. Look it up. Read about it. Because if we're making decisions that affect it, we ought to be informed. And to protect the sportsmen and women who pay the way for management, sound scientific management that allow everybody to enjoy this resource. And to protect funding, license, fees, permits, sales tax on the federal level, and the wise utilization of that funds, which there are parameters for on the federal level as to spending. So we've got to be careful. A path we go down that's going to cost that department and divert money, which I think certain types of fish maybe could do. I think we divert money out of that department's, that's resources that could maybe be used somewhere else. We've got to be real careful on any ad infinitum thing we commit to. We shouldn't be legislating this. I miss the day when Fish and Wildlife ran itself. It was set up that way to be autonomous. I've tried to make it autonomous. A lot of you in this body have helped me do that. I miss that day. Legislation as the Fish and Wildlife policy should be last resort. Last resort. I pray that we can get back to that. And I pray that I was raised that if you're a sportsman or woman, you buy a license. Buy a license. Don't begrudge that. Of course, I'm Doc Webb's kid, but I would urge everybody to do that. And I thank you for listening.
Recognition for the purpose of question or discussion on the bill. There being motion for passage, seeing no one else seeking recognition, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg.
Senator from Jefferson 26.
I stand to explain my no vote.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Really what I want to say, guys, is it's not all about you. It's really not always just about the individual. It is about the collective. And the senator from Carter has dedicated her life to protecting wildlife in this state and protecting the amazing natural resources that make us Kentucky and that make us one of the most beautiful places in the world. I know this seems simple, like you should be able to fish in your own pond. It's not that simple, guys. There are bigger issues at stake, and I vote no. Thank you.
Senator Boswell.
Senator from Davies, please cast your vote, then explain.
Oh, aye. Yes, I will explain. So I want to say that I appreciate the Senator Carter, and I think she is very knowledgeable on this subject. I agree with most of what she said when it comes especially to hunting, but fishing is different. The fish in your lake do not move. Okay, so thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funke Fromire. Senator Girdler. Senator Givens. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howe. Senator Maiden, Senator Mays Bledsoe, Senator McDaniel.
Senator from Kitten, please cast your vote, then explain.
Thank you, Mr. President. I cast an aye vote, and I only stood up to say that I don't know that there is a single member of the General Assembly in the time that I have been here who's been any more passionate about fish and wildlife issues than the senator from Carter. And quite frankly, there may not be a member in the history of the General Assembly who's been any more passionate about those issues. And so her perspective is invaluable, and I certainly appreciate it, and I think the members of this body do as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Meredith, Senator Mills, Senator Neal, Senator Nemus, Senator Nunn, Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Rawlings, Senator Reed.
Senator from Shelby, please cast your vote, then explain. Limited to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. President. I vote aye. But I would like to say I commend the senator from Grayson on her work in the conservation world. I've been all over the world, and I've seen I'm sorry, the senator from Carter. My apologies. But I was saying I've been all over the world, the third world countries, and seen what happens when there is no conservation, when there is no group out there advocating for animals, and it's decimated across the other countries in the world. And I come back home and see the robust hunting opportunities that we have here, and fishing. And I commend anyone that stands up for that, and I'm with you on the fight there. So in the future, I look forward to keeping all our hunting and our fishing and our fields and our ponds for our grandkids to enjoy. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Richardson, Senator Smith.
Senator from Perry, please cast your vote and then explain.
Mr. President, I cast an aye vote, and I want to give a brief explanation. When Kentucky was founded, which is in June 1st of 1792, we were a frontier state that was very opinionated. We came in to the Commonwealth with a couple of ideas that separated us out from the others. We wanted to join, but we had certain terms that we felt were important to the people that we serve, and those things still bear true to this day. In 1912, the Kentucky General Assembly decided to create the Commission on the Fish and Game Commission, is what was created then. And the purpose of that was really to start getting people to stop shooting everything they saw. And they were wiping out. In my area in eastern Kentucky, we couldn't hunt in Hazard because we had no game. They had literally decimated it because without the limits, people had just gone to their own natural desires, and if it looked good, they'd shoot it, much like what we saw out west with the buffalo. But it wasn't until a group many years later, and Commissioner Webb was a big part of that group that came in to help us build what you see now with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the grouse, the turkey, and a lot of you all have come into my district to hunt because we've got bear and all kinds of stuff. But it was not the case when I was a young man because of what had happened there, because there was no limits. And we get into 1944, 42, that's when you first saw the structure coming about as what we know now as the Kentucky Fish and Wildlife. It didn't actually get that moniker until about another, I guess probably maybe 1970s, but back then they wanted it to be based on science and on limits and trying to find out what species. They really started jumping into adding the scientific approach to how we went about managing the animals in our beloved state. When this bill came about, I challenged the sponsor to do the very best they could because this was a very important bill. And I wasn't sure when he saw it if he realized how big of a bill, and I think he'd probably agree with me now, that these bills are, because they affect all of us. I had a couple chief concerns, and I think they would tell you now, and that's that the limits as far as being unlimited, and making sure that we had people still buying the licenses. Now, we fought a battle here with ourselves as the governor decided he was going to run Fish and Wildlife, and we all stepped in and said, no, that just recently happened, so we all know how critical it is. This agency is run by the sportsmen, and I want it to stay that way. I want it to stay independent. We've seen it weaponized before as a political arm, and I don't think any of us liked what we saw. So we backed them being independent, but again, here we are kind of meddling back into that, and with these licenses, we want to make sure that we have plenty of them out there so that people will continue to pay. My concern on the limit was that you can have a situation, and I think it was mentioned earlier, where you've got a father and his son out on an old John boat just having a good day, and they're fishing. Now they're going to pay the license, they're going to have limit fees, all the stuff's going to apply to them. but you could have a wealthy landowner with property on there, and they would not have to comply with any of this, and not even have the limit. And the part of that look I was not comfortable with, and that's why we worked so hard to try to keep crafting this bill. And I will tell you, no surprise to anybody in here, it's going to still take some more work to it. But I do think this is part of the journey, and I just want to make sure to kind of clear the air, because, as mentioned earlier, this took on a life that we have not seen very often. But thank you for granting me that time, Mr. President.
Senator Stivers.
Aye.
Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Titchener. Senator Webb.
Senator Carter, please cast your vote and explain.
I vote no. I vote no, and I just want to say I appreciate the sponsor. We've had a lot of good conversations. I know he is a true sportsman, unlike many who assert to be in some leadership roles nowadays, but I know he is, and I appreciate him. I appreciate the discussions that we have had, and I look forward to continuing work with him, but at this time I vote a respectful no.
Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Change or explain their vote. Seeing none, there being 29 yeas, 8 nays. Senate Bill 39 as amended is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we bob along the way, I move that Senate Bill 154 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, would you please report Senate Bill 154?
Senate Bill 154, an act relating to elections. Senator Titchener.
Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I yield to the senator from Oldham for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Oldham.
Mr. President, Senate Bill 154 is a bill that will enact measures to further strengthen the election integrity of the state of Kentucky and remove any potential barriers to election fraud. Currently in the state of Kentucky, a person that comes to the polls that does not have one of the 4 approved methods of verifying their identification with a photograph, a voter can sign an affidavit and fill out a voter affirmation form, and they can provide 4 additional forms of voter ID, 2 of which do not require a photograph, that being a Social Security card or an EBT SNAP card. This bill will strike those 2 measures, ensuring that people who come to vote in Kentucky elections have a photo ID to verify their identification. Across the state and across the nation, people are calling for photo ID in order to vote. And I was just looking through all of the different methods for voter verification and identification, and you have to show a photo ID in a variety of places across the state in order to enter buildings, in order to purchase things, in order to rent equipment or cars, a hotel. You have to show a photo ID. Even in Congress, you have to show an ID in order to place a vote. So it's silly to me that we could place a vote without an ID in the state of Kentucky for one of our congressmen, but they have to use an ID in order to place a vote to represent us. So this is a simple bill to strike out those two verifications of ID that do not have a photograph, and simplifying our elections, eliminating the potential for fraud. And with that, Mr. President, I move for passage of Senate Bill 154.
The matter before the body is passage of Senate Bill 154. Senator from Jefferson, 19.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I speak against the motion for passage, please?
Have 15 minutes.
Thank you, sir. I'll be brief. I know it's a Friday. So what this bill does is it makes it harder for people to vote. And it makes it harder for people to vote, even though the sponsor, the senator from Oldham, acknowledged in committee that we have no evidence that any of the 1,000 people who voted using these means of identification in the last election did so fraudulently. So just to remind folks of those numbers, in our 2024 general election, we only had about 70 people who voted using EBT cards, and we had almost 1,000 who voted using their Social Security card. And I'll note that when I asked the senator from Oldham about any allegations of fraud or any investigations of fraud, she was not aware of any, and it is true that none exist, but she mentioned only the potential for trafficking around EBT cards. There has been no conversation, to my knowledge, nor any evidence from this state or any other involving fraud around Social Security cards. And it would shock me if there were to be, because as we all know, a Social Security card is a means of identification that we use to get other means of identification, such as a passport or a real ID. It's a very secure means of identification, and I believe that someone that goes to the polls and affirms under penalty of perjury that they are the person whose name is on the voter rolls and produces a Social Security card to show the same should be able to vote and understands that they are facing high consequences if they're not able to do so. And so why might someone take their Social Security card to the polls? Why did we see 1,000 Kentuckians take their Social Security cards to the polls? Well, I listened when I heard members of this chamber say that in rural Kentucky, it's really hard to get a driver's license. There are transportation barriers. It's difficult if you are a vulnerable person who is sick or who has a disability or who can't afford the gas or who struggles to get there. And you shouldn't give up your ability to participate in civic democracy for that reason. And so I don't understand why every year we keep chipping away at our laws that are designed to make it so it is easy to vote and hard to cheat, and instead we're just making it harder and harder and harder to vote. And the reason this matters is the right to vote in our democracy is the most fundamental one we have. It is the thing that gives legitimacy to our institutions and to everything that we, as elected representatives of the people, do here in this body. And so for that reason, I speak against the motion of passage. I will vote no on passage, and I urge all members, for the sake of democracy, to do the same. Thank you, Mr. President.
Again, the motion for the body is on the passage of Senate Bill 154. Next in the queue, I show the senator from Jefferson 33 to speak on the motion.
I was going to to the issue, but my colleague covered it pretty comprehensively, so I'm not going to go into that, other than I do want to say, if I may, that my research does not reveal almost any voter fraud anywhere, including Kentucky. And it just appears to me that we are trying to cure a problem that does not exist, except it does have a disparate impact on certain populations that we would like to participate in the process and participates in the process, but this type of policy actually suppresses it. And this is well known. And I've been a part of a lot of meetings and discussions around the country, and it's a big issue as a part of a strategy many believe is a voter suppression strategy. And it's not about whether or not we're protecting the vote, because we know there is negligible, almost to nothing, in terms of our voting systems that indicate that they're fraudulent across the United States of America. So you have to ask the question, why would you even go this route? Well, only thing you have to do is listen to Washington, and you hear the partisan discussion that takes place, and you understand that there is a reason by many. I can't ascribe that to the sponsor of this bill or somebody in this body, but certainly there are many, because they speak it very openly about this is a great tool to suppress certain populations of vote. So for that reason, I would, ask my well-meaning and well-anchored colleagues to consider this, that we don't have a problem, but we put a policy into place that creates a problem. Does not make sense to me, and I would urge you to consider that and vote no.
Again, the motion for the body is on the passage of Senate Bill 154. Members that have not previously spoken on the motion for passage, next in the queue, I have the senator from Grayson, having not previously spoken on this measure. Senator from Grayson, you're recognized for the purpose of discussion on Senate Bill 154.
Thank you, Mr. President. I find this discussion about no voter fraud very interesting because it reminds me of the accounting profession. You know, this kind of equipping that profession that you know what the best form of embezzlement is? It's that which hasn't been discovered yet. And I think that's the same way with this particular situation. Let's not be so naive to think there hasn't been voter fraud. Has it been broad? Don't know. But again, why wouldn't we want reasonable safeguards in place to make sure that it doesn't? You know, we are a free nation, but we forget that with freedom comes personal responsibility. And I, for one, wouldn't have any problem securing a voter ID with photo. And I think if we want to protect the liberties of this country, it falls upon all of us to help those who may struggle with getting a photograph ID. It's an opportunity to do it. You know, we have county Democrat parties, Republican parties. Seek those people out. Let's help them get that voter ID. I think it's a reasonable proposition. But again, freedom's not free. We have to work a little bit for it. And I think this is a reasonable measure that we should take, and I certainly support the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Clay, you're recognized for the purpose of discussion on Senate Bill 154.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to look over at the senator from Carter. I've been involved in a few lawsuits and election contests, criminal prosecution, and criminal defense of what? Voter fraud. They generally don't wind up in state court. They wind up in federal court. I think the one I most recently remember was a man by the name of Champ Mays. Who was he? I think he was over around the Rowan County area. And he was indicted. He was the county attorney. County attorney. His ex-wife was a circuit judge. Voter fraud. Monroe County. A lot of indictments were returned down there. My hometown. Yeah, saw a lot of them. Most recently, you want to talk about an ego buster, they made me go back to my car to get my driver's license because they wouldn't let me vote. Didn't know who I was in my home voting precinct, but they were going to make sure. I thought, man, that was tough. That was even my client that made me do it. They forgot I'd represented them. But for the sake of democracy, so we don't have incidences like this that come up again and again, and I can remember the day when one of our own members wore an ankle bracelet on this floor having pled to a voter fraud federal offense. It happens. I've called out 4 or 5 different instances here in this state since I have been in this chamber. If I'm not badly mistaken, I think the former Democrat Attorney General, who was Ben Chandler, investigated the sitting governor for allegations of voter fraud in Jefferson County. Oh, how our memories are so short. But for the sake of democracy, all it takes is a photo ID. Why not have that one simple thing? Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Boone 20, speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wake up in the morning and the news is playing. And this morning, sometimes the news really wakes you up in the morning when you hear what's there. It just starts playing. And it so happened this morning, the news that was playing when I woke up was the Georgia Election Board. And they were talking about, you know, that state that had no fraud back in 2020 and has had no fraud since there.
And what they were talking about with the Georgia Election Board is they'd actually discovered they had 70 illegal aliens that had been voting for a decade. Okay, they voted in that election. The only reason they knew those illegal aliens voted is because they had self-identified. They don't actually know how many illegal aliens really are voting, but these eventually self-identified because they got called for jury duty. Speaking of that, they had 2 illegal aliens that were on juries that were convicting American citizens because they were illegal aliens. They had voted in elections because they had voted in elections, were on the rolls. They were called to jury duty. And again, the only reason we knew that they were illegals is because when the attorney asked them their qualifying questions, they said, no, I'm not a citizen. But they've been voting for years. We have no idea in Georgia, this is all from the news this morning, I don't know when this was, is how many illegal aliens have sat on a jury and convicted an American citizen or found them innocent. We don't know. But we do know there's 2 self-reporters that found it. This is just from my morning news. That woke me up. I enjoy this discussion. We need to pay a greater attention. There are more than just illegal voting that can be occurring. We could actually have illegal aliens on juries convicting American citizens of crimes. And that's what they have in Georgia from the news this morning. That's all I have to say about this. I'm speaking in favor of the bill.
Senator from Jessamine.
Speak in favor of the bill, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Mr. President, I would argue that this bill does not make it harder to vote. It doesn't make it any harder to vote than it does to get into a concert or visit some other venues or to get on an airplane or to cash a check or even pick up certain prescriptions. And I don't hear an argument about that. You know, it does, however, provide increased comfort for American citizens who are voting and it says that my vote really counts. You know, we have a representative republic. And this is a non-partisan issue. Even at the federal level, some of the most recent studies, Pew Research, 83% on average want ID voting. 95% Republican, 71% Democrat. Gallup poll, 84% want ID voting. 98% Republican, 84% independents, and yes, Mr. President, almost 70% Democrat. This is a non-partisan issue. This does not make it more difficult for those who wish to vote, Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Senator from Henderson, speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak in support of the motion. My colleagues have done a very good job of running down my notes. I think they're looking over my shoulder here. Photo ID to vote is an 86% approval rating, 95% Republican, 72% Democrat. Recent polls shows increased, let me emphasize, increased voter participation in Georgia from 82% to 86% following the implementation of a strict photo ID law that was implemented. Mr. President, the problem here isn't the problem with these cards that the senator from Oldham is trying to remove is that they simply do not have a photo on them for the voting official to look at your card and look at your face and make sure you are the person you're saying you are. We've also done, let me refresh memory, the senator from Clay was refreshing our memory. We've also done substantial work in this body to make personal IDs free for everyone in Kentucky. Mr. President, tightening and making reasonable safeguards to make sure the person is who they are, who they say they are, to vote is a reasonable thing for us to ask. So I speak in favor of this. Thank you.
Continuing in accordance with Rule 24, no senator may speak more than once on the same subject until all senators desiring to be heard have spoken. The next in the queue appears to be the senator from Boone 11. Senator from Boone 11 to speak to the motion.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. Speaking in the same line of thinking as my colleagues, we should always look at context. We should always look at different categories and not isolate just the process of voting as distinct from other things that we do in life. So here's some key activities, following up on some points that have already been made. Some key activities requiring photo ID, boarding commercial flights, entering federal buildings, visiting military bases, buying alcohol, tobacco, lottery tickets, firearms, picking up prescriptions, which has been mentioned, opening bank accounts, cashing checks, signing contracts, notarizing documents, completing I-9 forms, applying for government benefits, such as EBT and SNAP, visiting a government office, applying for loans, renting vehicles, renting apartments, checking into hotels like I did this week. I'm asked for a photo ID. It's such a common thing, so across the board with activities that we're involved with every day. And so I'll be voting with Senate Bill 154 because this is not about voter suppression.
Senator from Hardin to speak to the motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rarely make speeches on this floor, but in this case, I wanted to point out a couple of things. First, the senator from Clay's historical lesson that there has been several instances of voter fraud in recent history, and I would like to respectfully push back against my friend and colleague, Senator from Jefferson 33's claim that there is none or hasn't been. And I say that for this reason. Many of my colleagues here in this chamber may not know my family history. My cousin, Charles S. Deneen, was the first two-time Republican governor of the state of Illinois in the early 1900s, later a U.S. Senator and finalist for Vice President of the United States under President Hoover. And I say that because he discovered voter fraud in the early 1900s in Chicago. And he took a very interesting approach when it was discovered in the 9th Ward, ballot boxes were being stuffed. And when he was confronted and asked by the Chicago Tribune, he took a very humorous approach to that unfortunate event. He said this, and I have this article hanging in my office. I don't have a problem with dead people voting, but they seem to uniformly vote for the other party. I guess in future elections, I will be campaigning outside of every cemetery. So, to say that it has not existed or has not happened is historically incorrect. This bill ensures that the people that are eligible to vote can vote, and it improves the integrity of our elections. So for that reason, sir, I apologize for the short history lesson, but I wanted to make sure the record was straight. Thank you.
All right. Preparing to start back with members that have previously spoken. Are there any members seeking recognition to speak on the motion that have not previously been recognized? It appears I have no members seeking recognition that have not previously spoken on the motion. Maybe I do have. Senator from Davis.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I myself was, in fact, the subject of a voter harvesting scheme the first time I ran for political office. And I won't go into details about it, but it happened.
Senator from Jefferson 19, you have some time remaining. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the senator from Clay yield to a question?
Senator from...
I will yield. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Senator from Clay. Senator from Clay, will you yield to a question?
I'm not certain that it's appropriate under the rules when you are in debate to yield the question, but I would gladly yield.
Senator from Jefferson 19, he will yield.
Thank you, Mr. President. My question is this. Senator from Clay, did any of the instances that you mentioned involve Social Security cards?
Senator from Clay, to answer the question.
The depth and breadth, Mr. President, that many of these took, and I did not even get into nearly all of them, involved many things about failure to be ID'd at the election precinct polling place, be it recognition, be it, you may think this is odd, kiwi shoe polish, because if you remember the old days, you had to flip the switch. You'd put kiwi shoe polish so your person would have some type of shoe polish on their finger so they could go out and get paid, because they wouldn't be ID'd and they wouldn't even request an ID. So it involved a lot of different things.
Senator from Jefferson 19, you have further need?
Thank you, Mr. President. May I speak briefly to the bill?
Please proceed.
Thank you, and thank you to the Senator for Clay from that response. I will say I appreciate the history lesson. I've had some history lessons from my relatives as well, some of whom live in his district, probably prefer the way he votes on legislation over the way I vote on legislation. And they tell me the going price for a vote back in the day was about $20. And so I am aware that historically Kentucky has had election fraud and voter fraud. I also believe that we've come a long way in terms of putting in place laws that make it easy to vote and hard to cheat. And I would say, I think it's important for members of this body, when we're voting on legislation, to pay particular attention to the legislation in front of us and what that piece of legislation does. If we have systemic issues around our elections, again, I believe my colleague from Jefferson 33 has said, show us the evidence, but if there is other things we need to do, then absolutely, let's look at that. I think Social Security cards are a form of ID that you use to get other forms of ID, many of which would make you eligible to vote once you have gotten that form of ID. It is a unique and secure form of identification that 1,000 people, mostly in rural Kentucky, mostly vulnerable populations, have used to vote. And I do not understand on this bill why we are trying to solve a problem that is not in fact a problem. And with that, I renew my objection and opposition to the motion for passage. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Senator from Jefferson 33, you do now wish to be recognized to speak again on this motion?
I do, Mr. President, and thank you so very much. And all due respect for my good friend, the senator from Hardin. He misquoted me with respect to my presentation earlier. I've never said that there's never been voter fraud. I mean, obviously, there's a flaw in every system. There is something that happens all around, but there clearly have been instances of voter fraud. Everybody knows that. So if that's his premise for pushing back on my comment, then he's a little awry from that. But the Brennan Center's seminal report on this issue, The Truth About Voter Fraud, found that most reported incidences of voter fraud are actually traceable to other sources, such as clerical errors or bad data matching practices. The report reviewed elections that had been meticulously studied for voter fraud and found incident rates between 0.0003% and 0.0025% in terms of instances. Given the tiny incidence rate for voter impersonation fraud, it is more likely, the report noted, that an American will be struck by lightning than that he will impersonate another voter at the polls. So what we've heard here is comments from various of our colleagues here in support of the bill, and I understand that that's the way it works, but clearly not persuasive in terms of establishing the fact that there's some kind of voter fraud that changes outcomes of elections. It's pervasive across the United States of America and indeed in Kentucky. So thank you for your points that you made. They're not convincing, at least to me, and that may not matter to the outcome, but I do want to raise the point that the statement made by the senator from Clay about our democracy and so forth, I agree with, but for different reasons. I believe that everybody, all systems have consequences. They don't necessarily act or bring about results the way we intend them to do. This is one of those instances. We've had this over and over throughout history to show that this has suppressed certain type of voting. So there's no sense suggesting that that doesn't happen, or it has not happened historically, or that it doesn't happen now. It does. It's a fact. And it's a result of studies that they find these conclusions. So we can laugh about this because I like laughing with my friends, because I like my friends here in the Senate. But the fact of the matter is that this is real, and it has real consequences. And if we were really talking about that argument about the democracy and having the best thing we can, and we know it's not perfect no matter what we do, then I would suggest that we should have some foundation to understand what is the effect of having the proposal that's put on the table today as opposed to what has happened historically and what can be proved. And I don't think it's been proven. I don't think the argument is persuasive, and I therefore still would urge my colleagues to consider my arguments with respect to this, follow my lead, and vote no on this policy.
Senator from Oldham, you wish to be recognized again on this issue?
Thank you, Mr. President. I originally kept my comments quite brief because I didn't think this was going to be an issue that would require so much debate, and I do appreciate the debate and discussion around this, and I appreciate my colleagues coming to the defense of securing our elections and requiring strict photo ID across the board. It was brought up a couple of times, and I wanted to address the issue of Social Security cards with the senator from Jefferson 19. Yes, we had 1,000 people, according to the State Board of Elections, that voted using a Social Security card. And her argument is that if they have a Social Security card, they can access a photo ID with that, and they might need to present that Social Security card in order to prove who they are to get their photo ID. So I think that's a valuable point, that they can actually use that to attain a photo ID. But she did not seem to indicate or believe that there are cases of identity theft with Social Security cards, and truly that is rampant across all states. So I wanted to go over a few fake Social Security cards that were sold illegally in Massachusetts by a Brazilian national. He sold fake cards in exchange for cash. In order to register to vote, you need a Social Security number. So if you have a Social Security card with a number on it, you can register to vote. Using fake or misused Social Security cards in Mississippi, a man was sentenced to fraud for possessing Social Security cards and IDs that were stolen. Then we get into Kentucky. Danville man, a Mexican national in Danville, Kentucky, was sentenced to 42 months for aggravated identity theft, creating false identities, procuring Social Security numbers and cards tied to stolen identities, and selling those. Williamsburg woman, also sentenced in 2022 for creating fake IDs. In Covington area, a woman was possessing 9 Social Security cards. So she actually could have voted 9 times. Laurel County, Eastern Kentucky, Nicholasville. Social Security fraud happens. It absolutely happens. Identity theft happens. And one of the interesting testimonies we heard over the interim in our state joint committee, we had the Secretary of State's office come and present some of their work they've been doing to clean up our voter rolls, and they've been doing a great work there. Still a lot of work to be done. We have a lot of people on the rolls that don't need to be there. But what they found, and I don't remember the exact number, but I remember it shocked me enough to recall 200 non-citizens that are actually on our voting rolls right now, and they are currently investigating that. So voter fraud absolutely can happen and does happen, as we've heard today, and it can happen with Social Security cards. It can happen with EBT and SNAP. We're seeing across the nation revelations that many people who are not citizens have access to our benefits through SNAP and EBT, and we are trying to tighten that up. And this is just another way to eliminate any potential for fraud in our elections and to ensure that the vote that is taken, that my vote, does not get canceled out by someone else who doesn't have a right to vote. Thank you.
Again, the motion for the body is on the passage of Senate Bill 154. The chair does not see any other members in the queue wishing to speak on the motion. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. No. Senator Boswell. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funke Fromar. Senator Girdler. Senator Givens.
Aye.
Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howe. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemus. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers.
Aye.
Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Titchener. Senator Webb.
Senator from Carter, please cast your vote and then explain.
Today, I'm going to vote no, and I said, I get roped into these things because my Senate President knows a lot about my background, and my first jury trial did involve that, but I do better with juries than I do with y'all, and I won that case. And Senator from Jefferson 19, $20, that was pretty good money, because a lot down home when I was down southeast Kentucky, and Senator from Perry might attest to this, a half a pint of bad liquor could have done that too. So, but I'm going to vote no until we do a better job of passing the Senator from Shelby's bill or something like it to restore the ability of my disenfranchised individuals that do struggle with transportation and other issues to have access to a photo ID. And I think we could do it, since the state is issuing some of these things that we are excluding. I think we could do a better job getting a person's picture on some of those things to verify the election integrity and also not disenfranchise voters. So at this time, another statement piece, we need to do better in providing the opportunity for ID to the citizens in rural Kentucky. I vote no.
Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Seeing no one seeking recognition, there being 31 yeas, no nays. Oh, Senator from Marion.
Explain my yes vote.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. To reply to the Senator from Carter's comment about a half pint of bad liquor, obviously it did not come from my Senate district. Thank you.
There being 31 yeas, 7 nays, Senate Bill 154 is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I move that Senate Bill 70 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, please report Senate Bill 70.
Bill 70, an act relating to the Public Pension Oversight Board. Senator Higdon.
Senator from Taylor.
President, I yield to the Senator from Marion for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Marion.
Thank you, Mr. President. This truly is a simple little bill. It makes a few appointment adjustments to the Public Pension Oversight Board. It adds as a member in statute the chair or vice chair of state and local government in the Senate. It adds in statute the chair or vice chair of the House Standing Committee on State Government as a member. These changes basically add 2 new members to the PPOB. The bill also adds the state treasurer or his or her designee. In addition, it updates Senate President and Speaker of the House and the governor who they can appoint, and it allows for them to appoint a former elected official with relevant experience in retirement and pension plan management or policy to serve on the board. These changes strengthen the oversight board of the PPOB by ensuring members have real world experience and direct involvement in pension policy. Mr. President, if no questions, I move for passage of Senate Bill 70.
The matter for the body is passage of Senate Bill 70. Seeing no one seeking recognition, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Aye. Senator Boswell. Aye. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Aye. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funke Fromeyer.
Senator from Campbell, please cast your vote, then explain.
Yes, Mr. President. I'd like to cast an aye vote, and I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the Pension Benefit Oversight Board and recognizing that these additional members that our senator is inviting are so essential. But some of us also recognize that our senator from Marion, I think of Bourbon when I look at you, but our senator from Marion is such a true gentleman and such a wonderful professional as he leads the discussion around something so absolutely and important and imperative that so many members of our public employee systems, including our educators, rely on us doing great work and rely on us being great stewards and protectors of their pension. So I want to thank the senator from Marion, and I proudly vote aye.
Senator Girdler. Senator Givens. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howe. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemus. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Titchener. Senator Webb. Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Seeing no other person seeking recognition, there being 38 yeas, no nays, Senate Bill 70 is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 80 be taken from its place in order today, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, please report Senate Bill 80.
Senate Bill 80, an act proposing an amendment to Section 145 of the Constitution of Kentucky relating to restoration of rights. Senator Higdon.
Senator from Taylor. Mr. President, I yield back to the Senator from Marion for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Marion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 80 is a constitutional amendment addressing the restoration of voting rights. This body passed identical legislation in 2020 by a vote of 29-7. At that time, it was in the House orders of the day a few weeks later, but the session was cut short due to COVID. And I strongly believe that had it not been cut short by COVID, the constitutional amendment would have passed and been on the ballot. I do want to mention quickly the senator from Jefferson 35 at the time was a layperson, not in the General Assembly. And that's when I first met her, and she worked diligently to help get this bill passed back then. And I appreciate her being a co-sponsor on this bill. The purpose of this constitutional amendment is to help clear up confusion created by the 2019 executive order restoring voting rights. Over the years, a lack of enabling legislation has caused uncertainty for county clerks, courts, and individuals seeking to have their rights restored. This amendment provides for automatic restoration of voting rights after the completion of the sentence and probation for most felony offenses, with the exception of election fraud, violent felony offenses, felony sexual offenses, and criminal offenses against a child. The Constitution, Mr. President, allows for the enabling legislation to provide clear guidance to county clerks and the court system on how this process is to be handled. The amendment also preserves the governor's constitutional authority to restore voting rights and the right to hold office. Additionally, this committee substitute removes outdated language from the Constitution by striking the terms idiot and insane person and replacing them with mentally incompetent. Mr. President, if there's no questions, I yield for passage of Senate Bill 80.
Passage of Senate Bill 80. Senator from Jefferson 35.
Thank you, Mr. President. Speak on the bill.
Please proceed.
Yes, first I want to thank the Senator from Merriam for his work on this legislation way before I started to do this work, and his guidance through the process from me being an advocate to now being elected. It has been an honor to work with him. And, you know, I just want to say, as someone who has worked on this with community members who have been impacted, this bill matters to me because, you know, we talk a lot about giving people second chances, folks going through the recovery process or reintegrating back into our communities. And I think that this is one of those other pieces that is oftentimes not talked about. We're talking about individuals who come home, who have completed their sentence, they have completed probation and parole. Sometimes that can be up to 20 or 30 years. These individuals are working class people, they are business owners, they are taxpayers, and I believe that once individuals complete their sentence and they're off probation and parole, we should automatically give them their rights back to vote. And I just encourage members of this body to vote yes on this piece of policy. Thank you.
Seeing no other members seeking recognition, okay, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Aye. Senator Boswell. Aye. Senator Carpenter. Aye. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Aye. Senator Clemens. Aye. Senator Deneen. Aye. Senator Douglas. Aye. Senator Elkins. Aye. Senator Funke Fromeyer. Aye. Senator Girdler. Aye. Senator Givens. Aye. Senator Herron. Aye. Senator Higdon. Aye. Senator Howe. Aye. Senator Maiden. Aye. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Aye. Senator McDaniel. No. Senator Meredith. Aye. Senator Mills. Aye. Senator Neal. Aye. Senator Nemus. Aye. Senator Nunn. Aye. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Aye. Senator Reed. Aye. Senator Richardson. Aye. Senator Smith. Aye. Senator Stivers. Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Aye. Senator Titchener. Aye. Senator Webb. Aye. Senator West. Aye. Senator Wheeler. No. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Aye. Senator Wise.
Seeing no other person seeking recognition, there being 35 yeas, 3 nays, constitutionally required 23 votes to pass, how Senate Bill 80 is passed. Senator Taylor.
Mr. President, I move that Senate Bill 127 be taken from its place in the orders of the day, read for the third time by title only, and placed upon its passage.
Mr. Clerk, if you would, please report Senate Bill 127.
Senate Bill 127, an act relating to actuarial costs of annual leave payments in the teacher's retirement system. Senator Higdon.
Senator from Taylor.
President, I yield to the Senator from Marion for explanation of the bill.
Senator from Marion.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. President. Would you ask the clerk to report Senate Committee Substitute 1?
Mr. Clerk, would you please report?
Senate Committee Sub 1 to Senate Bill 127.
Senator from Marion.
Move for its adoption.
Matter for the body is adoption of Senate Committee Substitute Number 1. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Senate Committee Substitute Number 1 is adopted. Senator from Marion.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 127 addresses annual leave, and it addresses who's eligible as primarily year-round employees in the school system and administrators. Rank-and-file teachers do not receive annual leave. This bill does not eliminate annual leave. What it does, it limits the teacher retirement, TRS, it limits their exposure. The cost responsibility going forward, the state will pay the actuarial cost tied to annual leave already accumulated as of July the 31st, 2026. For local school districts, the state will also cover future accumulation capped at 5 days per year that may be counted toward retirement. Additional days may accumulate, but they will not be included in the high 3 calculation. For all other participating employers, the state will cover the leave already accumulated as of July 31st, 2026. Any additional cost beyond that date will be the responsibility of the employer. Mr. President, this bill fully grandfathers all existing accumulated annual leave for employees hired prior to 2008. Mr. President, if no questions, I move for passage of Senate Bill 27 as amended by Senate Committee Substitute 1.
The matter for the body is passage of Senate Bill 127 as amended. Seeing no one seeking recognition, Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Senator Berg. Senator Boswell. Senator Carpenter. Senator Carroll. Senator Chambers Armstrong. Senator Clemens. Senator Deneen. Senator Douglas. Senator Elkins. Senator Funke Fromeyer. Senator Girdler. Senator Givens. Senator Herron. Senator Higdon. Senator Howe. Senator Maiden. Senator Mays Bledsoe. Senator McDaniel. Senator Meredith. Senator Mills. Senator Neal. Senator Nemus. Senator Nunn. Senator Rocky Adams. Senator Rawlings. Senator Reed. Senator Richardson. Senator Smith. Senator Stivers.
Aye.
Senator Storm. Senator Thomas. Senator Tishner. Senator Webb. Senator West. Senator Wheeler. Senator Williams. Senator Wilson. Senator Wise.
Smith is a no. I don't think there is a Mays Bledsoe. Seeing no other person seeking recognition, to cast, change, or explain their vote, Senate Bill 127 as amended is passed. Senator from Taylor.
Mr. President, that concludes the orders of the day.
So the next order of business would be a meeting of the Rules Committee and Committee on Committees. Senator Taylor, do you have a motion?
Mr. President, I'm sorry. I moved that the Senate recess for a meeting of the Rules Committee and Committee on Committees at the clerk's desk, please.
This body shall be in recess until call of the chair. Body shall come to order. Next order of business is report of committees. Mr. Clerk, please report.
Rules Committee has met and posted these bills to the regular orders for
Mr. Clerk.
Monday, February 23rd. Posted to the regular orders for Monday, February 23rd, Senate Bill 52, Senate Bill 124, Senate Bill 129. Rules has posted these bills to the regular orders for Tuesday, February 24th, 2026. Senate Bill 101, Senate Bill 162, and Senate Bill 170. And the Rules Committee has recommitted the following bill to Appropriations and Revenue, Senate Bill 50. The Committee on Committees has met and referred the following bills and resolutions to the Agriculture Committee, Senate Bill 214, to Appropriations and Revenue, Senate Bill 59, to Banking and Insurance, Senate Bills 157 and 189, to Families and Children Committee, Senate Joint Resolution 54, and to Licensing and Occupations, House Bill 470.
Mr. Clerk, does that conclude your report? Thank you, sir. Next order of business would be motions, petitions, resolutions, communications, and announcements. Senator from Grayson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to briefly communicate with the body.
Please proceed. Senator from Grayson.
I appreciate during our discussions today, we've had a lot of historical references. If you like history like the way I do, it's very entertaining and very disappointing to me this morning that this didn't make the headlines. But on this day in history, back in 1962, John Glenn, first American to orbit the Earth. But 10 years before that, in 1952, a more momentous occasion happened. And that's the birth of our senator from Bullitt. And as a result, his district, our state, and our nation is a better place to live. So hope you'll join me in congratulating him on his birthday today.
Senator from Hardin.
Co-sponsorship, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
With the permission of the primary sponsor, I ask to be added to Senate Bill 172, and I have the proper paperwork.
Without objection, so ordered. Senator from Jefferson 33.
Co-sponsorship.
Please continue.
With permission of the primary sponsor, I move to be added as co-sponsor of Senate Bill 80.
Please file the appropriate paperwork, and without objection, so ordered. Senator from Clark.
Co-sponsorship, Mr. President.
Please continue.
Mr. President, with the permission of the primary sponsor, I wish to be added as a co-sponsor to Senate Bill 172 and Senate Bill 70. And I
Please
have
file the
proper
appropriate paperwork, and without objection, so ordered. Seeing no one else seeking recognition in this order of business, Mr. Clerk, do we have any new floor amendments that's been filed? Please report.
New Senate floor amendments. Senate floor amendment 1 to Senate Bill 170, Senator Williams. Senate floor amendment 2 to Senate Bill 170 with Senate Committee Sub 1, Senator Williams.
Does that conclude your report on floor amendments?
It does.
Do you have any new bills or resolutions?
Yes, I do.
Please report those.
New bills, Senate Bill 217, an act relating to density, making an act relating to dentistry, making an appropriation therefore, and declaring an emergency, Senator Thomas. Senate Bill 218, an act relating to the establishment of a Medicaid state-directed payment program, Senator Givens. Senate Bill 219, an act relating to deferred deposit transaction fees imposed by the Commissioner, Senator Howell.
Does that conclude your report?
It does.
Okay, thank you. Next order of business is adjournment. Prior to that motion, any other members seeking recognition? Seeing none. Senator from Taylor, do you have a motion?
Mr. President, I do. I move that the Senate adjourn until 4 p.m. Monday, February 23rd, the year of our Lord 2026.
Without objection, this Senate shall stand adjourned until the hour of 4 p.m. Monday, February 23rd, year of our Lord 2026.